Mixins allow you to define common properties at one place and then reuse them over and over again throughout your style sheet files. We're going to be looking at how a mixin can help to streamline this page. So I have a page, then I've already styled it up and I've made some Sass already, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here's my HTML, and my HTML is rather simple. I just have a main tag that wraps around a header with an H1 and an H2. Here is the Sass that I've actually defined so far. So I'm adding in some Google fonts. I have a rule on my HTML that sets the background color to display a brick image, and I'm just telling that not to repeat and to be fixed, and I'm having the background size be cover. I'm setting the body to have a minimum height of 100% so it matches the height of the HTML along with the height of HTML 100%. And then we just have some margin and padding. I'm setting the font family for the body to be the Able font, and I'm using a background radial gradient, which is setting this darker glow around the whole page. Then on my main, I have some settings that style the main tag, and on the header, I have some settings. And then I have my settings on my H1 and my H2. And I'm going to draw your attention to the text shadow. The text shadow is quite involved, and this is what is creating this kind of like neon glow on both the H1 and the H2. And currently, those parameters are set exactly the same. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a mixin so that we can easily reuse this. I am simply going to copy the text shadow, and then we're going to delete it from both of these rules. I'm going to come up here to the top of my page, and we're going to start by using the @mixin, and then I'm going to give my mixin a name. So I'm going to call this neon. And then once I have the mixin named, I'll go ahead and just set the properties. And the properties can be anything you want them to be. They can be multiple properties, they can just be one property. You can put a ton of different stuff on these. So now that I have the mixin defined, I want to be able to use the mixin. So I'll come into my H1 and we're going to say @include, and then I simply put the name of the mixin. So if I save right now, I've included the mixin on my H1, but not on my H2. So you can see that here the mixin is being applied. Now I can go ahead and I can include my mixin on my H2 as well, and then the styles are going to be repurposed onto that element as well. Now you might be thinking that a mixin is kind of a lot like a variable, and in this case it is, but what if I added some other properties here? So I'm going to add a text decoration, and we'll use underline, and let's add a font style of italic. I'll save, and if we refresh, you can now see that both of these items are underlined and they're both showing up italic. So any additional styles that I add to my mixin can be repurposed, and I could put this on another element on my page as well. If I come into my HTML and I'm just going to add a div, and we'll have the text say box, and then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to make a rule for my div, and I'm just going to use my @include and tell it to be neon. If we save and we go into our browser and refresh, you can now see that I have this div that says box, and it also has this little neon glow. Now the div doesn't have any other settings applied to it, so if I wanted them to be applied to it, I would need to go in and add additional styles. So when we define mixin classes, we can define a set of traits that you want to reuse throughout your styles, and then you just declare them in one place, and when you want to include them, you just simply use the @include.